Afternoon. I'm Sarah Sumbrum, Artistic Director of Dance Cleveland, and today I am so excited to be joined by Brenda Way, who is the founder and Artistic Director of ODC Dance. Hi, Brenda.
Hi there.
Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to jump right in. We have had ODC before. We previously presented Boulders and Bones, which was truly probably one of my top 5 pieces that Dance Cleveland has ever brought. I just absolutely loved it. And we were so excited when we found out that we were going to be able to bring you back here to Cleveland at Playhouse Square July 27th for your upcoming mixed repertoire show. So we haven't been able to see that side of ODC yet. So tell me a little bit about the company. I think it always feels like kind of a homecoming, I think, since you guys originally were started at Oberlin College. But give us a little bit of background on the company.
Well, I did start it when I was gainfully employed as a college professor with the very talented students at Oberlin, and I'm sure there are still very talented students at Oberlin. Anyway, we put together a company of a collective, and we all choreographed and did the administrative work and sort of created what we thought would be a long-term commitment of artists working together. Of course, things changed. We moved out here, blah, blah, blah. But the impetus was really from the artistic energy and fire that I found at Oberlin. Anyway, we moved out here and found a space, and then we were evicted. It was very classic because it was a beautiful space. We made it more beautiful, so someone else wanted to spend a lot of money.
California problems, right?
It is a California problem. So then we decided we would buy a place so that nobody could kick us out. So we bought a really terrific old warehouse for, I just have to say, for those of you who know real estate, for $100,000. So it was a pretty good deal.
I'd say so.
It was a moment. And since that time, we've been growing the company. The company is actually still 10 people, which it's always been, except when the very first summer. But the school we started and the presenting theater and so on, we now have 16,000 students and 2 kids companies and our company chugging along, performing at home and around the world.
And I think that's what's so amazing is like ODC is not just a dance company. It's almost, I feel like it's like a lifestyle. It's like, it's more of a full brand.
I think it is a world.
Everything.
I think in some ways the sort of the diversity of what Oberlin represented with all the different things was the model. So that we were really looking for a diverse life where we wouldn't get stuck in the studio not knowing what was going on in the world. So that's what we do.
Wonderful. Well, so tell us a little bit about the program that we're going to get to see this upcoming weekend. I know we start with one of the pieces. Let's see, we're going to start with A Brief History of Up and Down, which of course is your piece. One of your newer works. So tell us, what was the inspiration behind that piece?
Well, it is a new work. It's a brand new work. And we just performed it last night here.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah. Well, last year I made a piece that we're going to show at the end of the show that was inspired really by the challenges of our social situation and the news and the disturbing level of violence and so on. And I thought a lot about consolation. I'll talk more about that later, but I thought for this season, I wanted to really do something that was focused on a generative arena. One of the great things about being together and making work is one of them. Any creative activity, I think, is one of them. And I thought, well, let's just have it about how do we think? What are the questions we ask when we're inventing things, when we're thinking generatively? So that's really what the piece is about. And also it's an opportunity to look back on how contemporary dance has evolved. So the very beginning references pieces that I made 40 years ago.
Oh, I love that.
Years ago. So there's an embedded history, which of course is very fun for me to bring to the Oberlin neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think for Community Dance Day, we're going to be having all of these youth in the theater who are taking part in our showcase. So giving them that exposure to kind of see the history of contemporary dance is wonderful.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun for them. It includes some questions that are typed onto the backdrop that one might have in choreography. So it will be particularly pertinent, I think, for them.
Perfect.
And of course, it moves forward and into a much more virtuosic and flat out dancing mode, which is what
Mhm.
happened to us. We started very simply in pedestrian investigations, and then we really absorbed the dance world and brought it together. I think the company in general occupies a place between modern dance and ballet. So it has they're very well trained,
Mhm.
but it isn't about that training. It's just
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, no, you can see that in the pieces. And I think what I love about your dancers is they're so versatile. And you can see that in the second piece, because we go every way from contemporary dance and really seeing the beginnings, like you said, more athletic and balletic movement. And then in the second piece, we're even going to see a little bit of tap dance.
Yes, well, Kimi, one of my partners from the very beginning at Oberlin, was always a tap dancer. I also was a tap dancer when I was a kid. But she made a piece called, yeah, right. What's it called? You know,
The two if by C?
Two If by Sea. Yes.
Yes, 2014, right?
Yeah, right. Um, and it was inspired by the languages that we have to communicate with each other.
Mhm.
Not a specific one language, but that we use so many more things than words
Mhm.
to communicate. So that was her genesis point. Um, and there is, of course, the tradition in tap of call and response.
Oh, yeah.
So that is one of the ways. And so the piece starts off with some very fun, I think, improvisational tap dance talk,
Love it.
which is also interesting for young people to see the different ways classical ideas, classical being traditional tap,
Sure.
um, can be used for contemporary expression.
Yeah, I love that. I love the mixing of the genres. And, I think that's the beauty of dance is, like you were saying, it crosses languages. And now we're seeing more and more of the different dance forms kind of crossing paths as well in that intersection between tap and contemporary and ballet. It's really just like a melting pot these days. So I
Yeah,
love that.
I think that pluralism is sort of characterizes today's dance world.
Mhm.
When I first came on board, if you looked like you had a ballet thing going on, you were just out of luck with the contemporary world, and vice versa. And now you see great modern pieces on ballet
Oh,
companies
yeah.
and wonderful classical pieces on modern companies. So
Mhm.
it's a
Very
wonderful
true.
freedom. And I hope it will be part of why more and different kinds of people feel at home uh, in the dance world. Because
Yeah, and I think this program's great for both dance aficionados who have
that's
been
what I'm
seeing,
thinking.
dance for a long time. We have lots of subscribers who have been with us a very long time and are probably familiar with your company, but we also are going to have a lot of new people in the audience. So I think it's great that there's so many different entry points for this particular performance.
Yeah, I think there
Also
are.
enjoy.
Last night when we were performing, the house had many youngsters in it, and I was really delighted. And they were quiet as mice. I mean, I'm happy I have 4 kids, though. A little noise from kids does not put me off.
Yeah,
But they were rapt, which was very gratifying.
that's great.
Yeah.
So tell us about the very final piece. I know that you said that you made this in 2023, collision, collapse, and a coda. So tell us what's the inspiration between the final piece of the program?
Well, the collision and collapse really came from reading the newspaper.
Mm.
Collision, collapse, calamity. I thought of that 10 different words that might be in the title.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, that's what the newspaper is about, to creating interest by virtue of, calamities.
Sure.
But anyway, the coda, which is an interpretation of Chopin by Chad Lawson, which I think is really beautiful, is about consolation and how we can find the peace we need with each other.
Mm.
So that's basically what it's about.
For those who are not familiar with like dance terms, what is a coda?
Oh, the part that comes at the end and kind of sums things up
Yeah.
often. It can be used in different ways, but I'm thinking of it as reflection. We've seen all this, and now where are we? So it's a
Mhm.
little bit of a different interpretation of a coda too, now that you point
Yeah.
that out.
I like that. I like that. Well, what do you hope that our audiences take away from the performance? You know, when they walk
Well,
out of the theater.
of course, I hope they take away, oh, I like dance. That's what I hope they take away. But also that I think this could be a pretty uplifting program.
Yeah.
You know, we have different things, you know, Boulders and Bones was interesting, and
Yeah.
I think it was dynamic, and I think it was engaging. Um, it wasn't about being uplifting or about being, you know,
Sure.
heavily topical. This one is a little more about the spirit,
I
and I think an effort to really say we can do this.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect to start off our season. You know, we're kicking off Dance Cleveland's 68th season, and I love kind of starting it on a positive note, especially when it's summertime. You know, we can all use that joy in the theater. So,
I
thank you
agree.
so
Well,
much.
joy is a big deal, I think.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Brenda. We're excited to have you here this weekend.
Well, thank you,
For those
Sarah.
of
We're very
you,
excited too.
yeah, yeah. And for those who still need tickets, we still have tickets available at dancecleveland.org. And in the meantime, pack up that suitcase and we can't wait to see you soon.
Okay, ciao.
Bye bye.